Okay, welcome back to the Update 1.89 dev server, where I will be taking a look at the Japanese Navy. Now, in the hopes of keeping this video as short as possible, what I'm going to be doing is, as each vessel comes up, I will talk about how it looks and how I think it might perform, while the armor, the X-ray modifications are shown in the background. If you want to look at anything more specific, feel free to pause the video, look at the relevant information, and then we can move on. So to start off, what do we have? This is the Type T-14. So this is the reserve vessel, a small torpedo boat type vehicle. You have a single machine gun mounted above the sort of bridge area. The hull is made of wood, so that's not going to provide you a huge amount of protection, not a huge amount of armor there, and a max speed of 37 miles an hour. In X-ray, you can see it's fairly simple. You got the engines, you got the torpedoes, the gun on top, and then you got the crew in the bridge area. Very small vessel, not really much to go into, and there is the modifications. You do have smoke screen though, which could be useful in lower tier games. So pretty decent there, and it is worth noting it can carry depth charges. So, you know, they're not the most useful in naval from my experience, but when subs come along, they will certainly help. Now we move on to the Type T1. This is a slightly bigger torpedo boat, still made out of wood, so again, not the best armor, but you do this time have 2 machine guns and 2 torpedoes, and the possibility for depth charges, so pretty decent. It's a fairly speedy little torpedo boat. I'm sure you could definitely take out a few boats with this. Of course, being lower tier, there aren't many bigger boats that you will be able to sort of sneak attack on. You will be facing mostly torpedo boats, so we'll have to wait and see how this actually performs. And of course, as you just saw, depth charges are a possibility for this vehicle, as well as a torpedo mode modification, which of course makes it a bit easier to use your torpedoes, and I believe they can also travel further before they just sort of despawn. So this is the Type T-38, another torpedo boat at a 1.7 BR this time. This time you have a 25mm cannon and 2 torpedoes. There's the engine in there. Decent top speed again, 37 miles an hour, not too bad. Made of wood again, and of course the possibility for depth charges to be installed, which again, not the most useful, but I'm sure when subs come along they will be useful, and maybe against bigger boats they can sometimes be handy. So there we go, the T-38. So next we're going to move on now down to the second line on the tech tree. Still tier 1, but I believe we're now getting more into gunboats. So here we have this 37mm cannon. You've got a 20mm cannon as well. This time the boat is made of steel, so it is a slightly stronger structure, and the speed is a little bit lower than the previous torpedo boats we have been looking at. So, you know, it's more of a gunboat. Does not have torpedoes, and looking at the racks on the back, I'm presuming it has got depth charges, so again you have the possibility for some Type 95 depth charges, and also for your 37mm gun you can switch out the HE round with an armor piercing round, which might be useful against some of the slightly larger vessels you face in lower tier games, although in lower tier most vessels do not have armor, so I don't see armor piercing as being a huge must have. So next up we have the Pioneer. This thing's cute. It's like they've taken a fishing boat and they've chucked a bunch of armor on it. That is what this looks like. You have a 37mm cannon, you also then have some machine guns, and then you actually have armor around the bridge and the turrets. You know, at a 2.0 rating, in an up tier, other boats with cannons might pound you pretty hard, but in a down tier, it could be a fun little vessel. It's not that fast, though. It's fairly slow, it's just a nice little armoured boat. I can see this being a sort of derpy fun vessel that maybe kind of sucks, but you never know, it might be quite fun. So I am excited actually to give that a go on the live server or on the next dev server if I have time then. Obviously only HE rounds in the 37mm gun, you do not have an option to upgrade that to armour piercing. So next up we're going to take a look at yet another gunboat, another armoured gunboat. Here it is. So again, it's basically a fishing boat that has been up-armoured and had some guns bolted onto it. This time, though, you have a 57mm cannon, bit more firepower there, as well as your machine gun turrets. And there you see armour around the bridge portion and also on the turrets. Again, fairly low speed, but it is armoured in sort of the key areas. And you have a radio operator, which I'm thinking might give you artillery strike. Can I see that? Yep, artillery strike, so you have artillery support, which can be somewhat useful, and as well as the HE round, you can upgrade to an armor piercing type round, and also a heat round, which personally I've not seen much in naval, so it'd be interesting to see how that actually works against bigger vessels. So there we go, there is that. Now we're going to move on to the final tier 1 vessel, the Shared Thai Model 1, I believe it's pronounced. This is a green boat, yes it is green. 57mm cannon, as well as some 20mm cannons, pretty decent there. fairly slow speed, steel hull, no actual armor built into this vessel. Again, it's just a gunboat. You have some 20 mils, which can probably be used quite well for anti-aircraft support, and then the 57 mil, which is more of an anti-ship. Depth charges are a possibility on this vessel, as well as both heat rounds and armor-piercing type rounds. So you do have a decent amount of range there for the types of rounds you can use, so it could be a fun low-tier vessel at 2.3. We will have to wait and see on that one. So jumping down now into Tier 2, the Type 5 little gunboat again, this time a 75mm cannon, as well as the 20 mils mounted further back in the vessel. Armor, there is none. Going into X-ray, you'll see you do have a radio operator, so I'm presuming that does of course mean that artillery support is an option for this vessel. Yep, there we go, artillery support, and you can also get depth charges, Type 95 depth charges yet again, and then also you can have AP rounds and also distance fused HE rounds, which I have not used myself in naval. I will give them a go. I'm not sure how they work. Do they just detonate? Because this doesn't have radar or anything. So do they detonate at a certain distance from the target, or does the gunner have to set a distance to which it will explode? Do let me know in the comments if you know exactly how they work. The CH2 here we have a 40 mil cannon. Seems pretty decent. You also have some lower caliber cannons, which will likely be used for anti-aircraft. It's just another it's a gunboat, effectively. Decent top speed. It's not great, but it's decent. It'll do. Depth charges, again, Type 95. Fair amount of them there, 14 of them. And, of course, you can get upgraded ammo for both of your guns, the 40mm and the 25mm cannons. So you can upgrade them as well, which is quite nice. So moving on now to the next vessel, the CH8. Tier 2, 2.3 BR. This time it is a dual 40mm cannon, as well as 3 individual 25mm cannons, which again, 25mm could be used to destroy lighter vessels, but also could be used for anti-aircraft support. So somewhat low top speed here, only around 19 miles an hour, so not great. But it is a slightly bigger vessel, probably better survivability there. You have a crew of 59, so the survivability might be somewhat decent, actually, with this one. Going into the mods, though, you'll see that we do, again, have the possibility to get better rounds of ammunition for the 40mm and the 25mm. And then for secondary weapons, you have the Type 95 depth charges in various amounts, and I presume various layouts on the ship. So that is what you can get there. Pretty decent stuff. And also a mortar, I believe. It said a mortar. So it looks like you can get a mortar as well, which I have tried on some Russian boats, and it is actually quite fun. So now the number 13, Type 1944. Again, it's a gunboat type vehicle. You have an 8cm cannon this time. Bit of an upgrade from the 40mm, this time an 80mm. You also have some 25mm cannons, and also some 13.2mm machine guns. So a good amount of sort of anti-aircraft support, good amount of anti-ship support. This is a 2.7 BR, which does mean you could possibly face early destroyers like the Russian Funs, those sort of things. You could face them at some point, so you would need to be careful, and you only have HE rounds, so destroying larger ships that might have armor could be a bit tricky with those. So now the T-51B, this is a torpedo boat. You don't have any big caliber guns. You have 3 individual 25mm cannons, but then you have just basically the 4 450mm torpedoes. They are your main weapon. At a 2.7 BR, again, you might be facing early destroyers. Those torpedoes will be what you will use to kill them. Against smaller ships, the cannons can probably do their job quite well. Although, if you want to use the torpedoes, I'm sure you can. Torpedo mode and artillery support are both available on this vessel. Maybe firing off 1 torpedo at a time could be an effective way not to waste them and to kill lighter vessels. So here we have a post-war vessel, as can be told by the post-war Japanese flag on the stat card. Tier 2, the Type 11 torpedo boat. 2 40mm guns, one at the front, one at the back. And also 4 533mm torpedoes. Pretty decent stuff. Top speed of 39 miles an hour, not too bad. Crew of 78. Decent looking vehicle, I would say. Very good looking vehicle here. Decent speed, 3.0 BR. Again, early destroyers you might end up facing. Torpedoes should be good there. The 40mm gun, you can upgrade the belts for that, which will give you slightly better pen. So, we will have to, we'll have to see how that performs, but it looks like it will be good. Now, this is one I like quite a lot. The Chigugo. Okay, forgive my pronunciation, but here it is. So this is a somewhat modern Japanese vessel, more modern than most others at least. Post-war, the main gun is a dual 3-inch turret. Very good reload on this from when I tested it on live stream. And then you also have a 40mm Bofors, a dual 40mm Bofors, and then also 6 torpedoes. So decent stuff there. I presume the torpedo system are mini torpedoes, I think, that are launched from this auxiliary caliber turret. I believe the Japanese do that. They have sort of mini torpedoes that launch from a turret on deck. I would be very interested to see that working, so I can't wait to give that a go, actually, because I presume they're quite high up, so they probably have to jump down into the water. Might look quite cool. So for the gun, 76.2mm, HE rounds, various other modifications you can get there, and also for the 40mm, you can then get different rounds of ammunition for that as well. Of course, you have the distance fuse set rounds for the main gun, and also armor piercing type rounds. So now moving on to our next line of Tier 2, the IGN Mutsuki, I believe it's pronounced. Tier 3, this is not Tier 2, sorry, this is Tier 3. This is the first destroyer on the Japanese tech tree. 4 individual 120mm cannons, and then a bunch of machine guns, and then 6 610mm Type 93 torpedoes mounted in a torpedo tube, sort of in the front and in the back. 2 of them, one in front of the bridge and one down just in front of the rear guns. Good crew here, 271 people, max speed of 37 miles per hour. Not too bad there, actually, considering the size and the age of the vessel. The Japanese boats generally have set a record of generally having decent top speed, and for some of them, very good anti-aircraft support. But there we go, that is the first destroyer. Next one up is the Fubuki, IGN Fubuki, I believe it's pronounced. Main guns, you have 3 turrets, each of which have 2 127mm Type 3 guns. You then also have a bunch of machine guns. You have 7 dual turrets, is that? You have a lot of turrets, you have a lot of machine guns. And then you also have 9 610mm torpedoes. Not sure if this is 3 individual torpedo launchers, or if this is just more torpedoes in the individual launchers. It looks like you have 3 launchers. Yeah, you have 3 torpedo launchers, each with 3, and they are 610mm caliber. Decent looking vessel, 34 mile an hour top speed, less crew members than the previous boat. So, you know, the survivability might be a bit knocked down on this one. The gun, the 127 mils, you can then upgrade those rounds to the distance fuse set rounds. Again, HE, so we'll have to wait and see how that... This is a 4.0, so how it will perform against the larger vessels with only HE will be seen, although the guns are quite high caliber, so the damage might be decent. Okay, so on to the next destroyer, the IGN Yugamo. Yugamo? I don't know how to pronounce that, but still, 4.3 BR, the guns, same as the previous vessel. You have 3 turrets with 2 127mm Type 3s. I was a bit confused here because I looked at it and I thought, wait, is this the same vessel I just looked at? But it turns out it isn't. This is a different vessel. You then also have a bunch of 25mm cannons. You know, you have a few turrets with them. That's pretty good. And also 8 610mm torpedoes in 2 torpedo launchers, I believe, each with 4 torpedoes in the launcher. So pretty good stuff there. Ammo is in the standard place you would expect. You have fuel tanks, you have the big engine systems, 35 mile an hour top speed, and a crew that is bigger than the previous one. So the survivability is lightly buffed. Also depth charges, and of course the distance fuse set rounds for the main gun. The main gun, same as the previous vessel, so you have the same rounds for that. So now on to the final destroyer. This one is, yeah, the Accutsuki, if I'm pronouncing that right. First off, the main guns, 4 turrets, each with 2 100mm guns, lesser caliber, but more guns overall. But also the anti-aircraft support, 20 individual 25mm cannons, and then 5 of them in sets. That's a lot of anti-aircraft support. This thing is going to wreak havoc against every aircraft it faces, as well as also 8 torpedoes. This is going to be a fun boat. 4.3, any aircraft comes towards you, they're going to wish that they hadn't, because you're going to kill them. And also depth charges, and of course the upgrade to the distance fused HE rounds. So a good amount of stuff there as well. So now we're going to move on to the cruisers and the heavy cruisers, the light cruisers and the heavy cruisers. First off, here we have the Kuma. I believe it's pronounced Kuma, just Kuma, I think so. Main guns, you have 7 single 140mm cannons. You then have a bunch of anti-aircraft type cannons. You also have some 8cm guns, but then also you have a few anti-aircraft type things, machine guns. So not a huge amount of anti-aircraft defense compared to the previous destroyer on this light cruiser. There's not a huge amount of anti-aircraft, but you'd also have 16 torpedoes, 533 caliber for them. So a bit smaller than previously, but you do have more overall again. Speed of 33 miles an hour, not too bad for a boat of this size. And also a decent crew of over 400 souls, so that is decent there. And also these rounds can be upgraded to either armor piercing or distance fused, and the 80cm guns only have HE rounds, so that is worth noting there. So next up, on to the IGN Kako. I believe it's pronounced Kako. If you guys want to meme my pronunciations in the comments, feel free to do that, I do not mind. Tier 4 light cruiser, 5.3 BR, main guns, 6 individual 20cm guns, 200mm to be more specific. Decent boat, 35 mile an hour top speed, 600 soul crew, just over 600. Yeah. You also have 4 120mm cannons. You have some machine gun. You have some 25mm cannons set up for anti-aircraft defense. Again, not as much as on the destroyer we looked at a minute ago, but you do have some anti-aircraft support, and also 24 610mm torpedoes. That's quite a lot there. That is a lot of torpedoes. So if you like using torpedoes, that is the boat for you. Now this is the one I'm really hyped about, actually. Not the heavy cruiser, but in fact the last light cruiser, the IGN Yugamo. This is pretty cool, actually. Whenever I think Japanese boat, the paint scheme, the color, the crest on the front of the vessel, this just looks like an IGN vessel to me. I just love this one. Main guns, you have 3 turrets, 15cm dual mountings, 2 guns in each turret, which are 15cm, 150mm. You also have some 8cm guns in dual mounting turrets, and then a bunch of 25mm cannons for anti-aircraft support, both in triple mountings and double mountings. And then you have a bunch of 610mm torpedoes. So you have everything on this vessel. Speed of 35 mile an hour, crew of 700 souls, good survivability, decent speed, good range of weaponry. I'm actually excited to try this one. This is one of the vessels I'm likely going to ask for on test drive once the update's out, so I can make a video on. A lot of the early ones I'll grind out, but this one I think I'll ask for on test drive, just so I can give it a go, because I really do love the look of this vessel. It just looks like an IGN vessel for me. In the mods, you can upgrade all of the shells on your guns. The main guns, the 152 mils. You start with HE, you can then upgrade to more HEs, a different type of HE, and then also the distance fuse HE. The 76mm guns, you have more options here. It's the distance fuse HE, and there's no other options for the 25mm cannons. So now we're going to move on to our next vessel, the final one on the tech tree, the first heavy cruiser in the game, the IGN Furutaka. So in my opinion, this is worse than the previous vessel. You have the same amount of turrets. You have 3 turrets, 200mm guns, or 203 to be specific, with 2 of them in each turret. You do have armor, a decent amount of armor, mostly surrounding the engine systems, the ammo racks, all that sort of stuff. You also have 4 individual 120mm cannons, and then 6 dual mountings of 25mm cannons for anti-aircraft support, 16 610mm torpedoes, and this vessel and the previous one can be reloaded while you're sailing. So no need to go to a cap point and reload your torpedoes there. You can reload on the move, which is certainly incredibly useful, at least from what I've experienced with my Russian and German destroyers and early light cruisers. Having to go to a cap point to reload your weapons, quite annoying, so doing it on the move helps. You can also upgrade here to AP rounds and the distance set fuse HE rounds for the main guns. So pretty decent stuff there. Now we're going to move on to the premiums. First off, the premium destroyer, the IGN Kiyoshimo, 4.3 BR. This is very similar to the one with a bunch of anti-aircraft guns. I believe it's sort of similar to that, but with less guns. That's what I believe this is. So 3 main turrets, 127mm guns. You have 2 of them in each turret. You also have a bunch of anti-aircraft support, but not quite as much. You have 10 individual 25mm cannons. That's probably going to be enough to kill most aircraft. And this is the one I'm quite interested in, actually, the PGO-2. Tier 2 Premium, 3.3 BR. It is a minigun. 3.3 BR with a minigun, yes please. It's a hydrofoil, it's designed to be light, only a crew of 11, so the survivability, no, that's not a thing. 60 mile an hour top speed though, pretty damn decent there. It's quick, it's got a minigun, not much to complain about. And also smoke grenades, which you don't see so much on boats. Usually it's just the smoke screen, but you do have smoke grenades this time as well. So there we go, the Japanese naval tech tree. Apologies for not covering each boat in a bit more detail. This really is just literally a quick overview, just saying this is the tech tree, this is where stuff is, that is that. In the future dev server, I might look at stuff in a bit more detail, but that will have to wait till next time. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. If you did enjoy, please consider smashing the like button. Maybe even subscribe to the channel if you do. That would be massively appreciated. As always, there will be plenty more dev server content coming out soon. I'm going to try and cover some more of the obscure vehicles. Previously, I would always look at the bigger vehicles like the new MBTs, the new high-tier jets. The plan this time is to also cover, in the most part, a lot of the vehicles people won't look at. Like, for example, the new Japanese twin-engined heavy fighter, the J5. Not many people are going to look at that, so I'm going to take a look at that as well. All that sort of stuff coming out soon, so do keep an eye out for that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.